Ever wondered which old American truck brands simply couldn't go the distance? Today, we're looking at 15 classic names in trucking that once stood proud but have since faded into obscurity. We're going deep into their histories, calling out their glory days, and uncovering the reasons they eventually ran out of steam. Let's dive right in. Diamond T was once hailed as the Cadillac of trucks, and that nickname was no exaggeration. Founded by C.A. Tilt in 1905, Diamond T built its reputation on sturdy commercial vehicles that carried cargo and delivered goods across America. There was a time when you might have spotted a Diamond T lumbering down the dusty highways, hauling everything from fresh produce to military equipment, especially during World War II, when these trucks were crucial on the home front. Their distinctive grills, strong axles, and robust engines were all hallmarks of a brand that prided itself on craftsmanship. Jokes aside, owners often bragged that a Diamond T would outlast most marriages. Despite Diamond T's initial success, things didn't stay rosy forever. As the company tried to keep up with changing consumer tastes and increased competition, costs piled up. By 1958, Diamond T merged with REO to form Diamond Rio, hoping to pool resources and survive. Unfortunately, the new venture struggled, eventually closing for good in the mid-1970s. One of the lesser-known controversies surrounding Diamond T was that they occasionally overstated mileage and efficiency to court fleet operators. While nobody was ever charged, the rumor mill churned. Ultimately, Diamond T's legacy remains one of innovation and quality, but also a sobering reminder that even the Cadillac of trucks can't endure without adaptation and sustained consumer demand. If you've ever hummed along to the band REO Speedwagon, you might be surprised to learn that their namesake comes from Ransom Eli Olds, the automotive pioneer who founded REO Motor Company. REO made more than just passenger cars. They had a noteworthy line of trucks as well. Early models like the REO Speedwagon, yes, that's where the band got its name, were favored for commercial delivery. In fact, during the 1920s and 1930s, REO trucks were all over America, hauling everything from coal to dairy products. Their reliability was often praised by small businesses that couldn't afford constant mechanical failures. However, as the Great Depression rolled in, REO took a major hit. Slow sales led to cost-cutting measures, and REO struggled to balance car production with truck manufacturing. They made a valiant effort with innovations like four-cylinder engines that aimed at better fuel efficiency. Some say REO trucks had more staying power in extreme temperatures than comparable Ford or Chevy models, although that claim sparked heated debates in truck clubs. Eventually, REO merged with Diamond T in 1958, forming Diamond Rio. That brand chugged along a bit but finally went under in the mid-1970s. Despite its short lifespan post-merger, REO's influence on American trucking culture lingers, especially among nostalgia buffs who still restore the old Speedwagons today. Before we move on to the next one in the list, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to us. Thank you. Studebaker is synonymous with classic American motoring, but many people forget they also built trucks. Founded in the mid-19th century as a wagon manufacturer, Studebaker supplied the U.S. military with horse-drawn vehicles during the Civil War, a fact rarely mentioned in casual conversations. When the internal combustion engine took over, Studebaker seamlessly pivoted, eventually offering some pretty stylish pickups in the 1930s through the 1960s. Their Champ pickup, introduced in 1960, boasted car-like comfort with a sleek, modern design. It had a modest but dependable six-cylinder engine, and some versions even offered V8 options that appealed to those craving a bit more power on the farm or in the city. Yet for all their flair, Studebaker faced serious financial troubles. They struggled to compete with the big three, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, who dominated the truck market. Rumors circulated that Studebaker's management team cut corners on marketing, choosing to invest in questionable side projects instead. While some fans argued that Studebaker trucks rode better and got better gas mileage than Ford's, the brand never regained enough market share to sustain long-term success. By the mid-1960s, Studebaker shut down its truck lines entirely, soon followed by the closing of its remaining automobile operations in the U.S. The once prominent icon of American manufacturing was relegated to the history books, an unforgettable chapter, but one that ultimately did not stand the test of time. When you hear the name Pierce Arrow, luxury automobiles might come to mind, sleek cars that chauffeured American socialites and European royalty in the early 20th century. However, Pierce Arrow also ventured into the truck market, primarily focusing on heavy-duty commercial models and fire trucks. They built these vehicles with the same dedication to craftsmanship that defined their high-end cars, equipping them with powerful six-cylinder engines and robust frames. A Pierce Arrow truck was considered a premium product, often costing more than comparable models from other brands. Some cities willingly paid the premium, convinced that a Pierce Arrow fire truck would serve them longer and more reliably. But that kind of luxury pricing didn't translate well in the broader commercial truck market. Even though these trucks had their devotees, many businesses simply couldn't justify the higher cost. There's a controversial anecdote that Pierce Arrow supposedly refused a big government contract during the 1920s because it would have compromised the brand's prestige, an allegation that some historians dispute. Regardless, by the early 1930s, Pierce Arrow was reeling financially from the Great Depression. The brand declared bankruptcy and ceased production entirely by 1938. While Pierce Arrow cars still attract collectors willing to pay top dollar, their foray into trucks has largely faded into obscurity. A fascinating side note in a storied legacy of luxury that ultimately met a tragic end. Brockway Motor Company was founded in Cortland, New York in 1912, making a name for itself with high-quality commercial trucks designed for heavy-duty tasks like logging and long-haul transport. The trucks often featured beefy inline-six or V8 engines, sturdy transmissions, and a no-nonsense design that appealed to folks who needed real workhorses. Owners raved about Brockway's durability, claiming these vehicles could handle rough roads and steep inclines better than many competitors of the day. In fact, Brockway's signature Husky Bulldog hood ornament was a tongue-in-cheek nod to their rugged reputation, even though Mack Trucks had its own iconic Bulldog symbol. Brockway struggled in the 1960s as the trucking industry began consolidating. They got snapped up by Mack Trucks in 1956, an arrangement that looked promising at first but later turned sour. Mack tried to integrate Brockway designs into their lineup, leading to internal conflicts about branding and product direction. Some critics said Brockway lost its unique identity after the acquisition, resulting in a slow fade. By 1977, Mack shut down Brockway's operations for good. There's a persistent rumor that Brockway engineers wanted to develop advanced diesel-electric hybrid trucks in the 1970s but were turned down for cost reasons, an opportunity that, if true, might have given them a pioneering edge. Sadly, we'll never know if such innovation could have saved Brockway from the scrap heap of history. Graham Brothers started off in the early 1900s, making kits to convert Model T Fords into trucks. They quickly branched into building their own complete trucks, and by the mid-1920s, Graham Brothers trucks were a common sight across the country. Their tagline was all about rugged reliability, focusing on delivering a low-maintenance vehicle that small businesses could rely on. Owners appreciated features like the heavy-duty rear axle and the option for a larger gas tank, which meant fewer stops on long deliveries. Some models even allowed for relatively easy engine swaps, a beneficial feature for fleet managers eager to keep trucks on the road. Despite early success, the company's path took a complicated turn when the Graham brothers joined forces with Dodge. This relationship began with Dodge marketing Graham trucks and later led to a partial takeover by Chrysler. By the 1930s, the Graham name started to fade away, replaced by Dodge branding. Controversy arose when some claimed the Graham brothers were edged out by Chrysler's power moves, losing control over their own brand in the process. Whether that's entirely true or not, what's certain is that the Graham brothers moniker eventually disappeared. While a few dedicated collectors still seek out old Graham trucks, most folks today have never even heard of this once thriving manufacturer. Established in Detroit in 1910, the Federal Motor Truck Company enjoyed early success thanks to its range of medium-duty and heavy-duty vehicles. Federal trucks were known for their reliability and robust engineering, often featuring four-cylinder engines that produced adequate torque for commercial hauling. Small municipalities and businesses favored them for tasks like garbage collection, firefighting, and local deliveries. In fact, Federal trucks were a common sight in many New England towns, with some local departments swearing by their easy-to-service mechanicals and readily available parts. However, competition in the truck market was fierce, and Federal found itself overshadowed by bigger names with deeper pockets. World War II provided a temporary surge in demand as the company received contracts for military vehicles. Yet once peace returned, Federal struggled to pivot back to a peacetime economy, lacking the marketing clout to make a major post-war splash. Rumors circulated that Federal executives engaged in questionable accounting practices to stay afloat, though no official charges were ever filed. By 1959, Federal shut its doors. While remnants of this brand still pop up at antique truck shows, Federal's story remains a cautionary tale about the perils of being a smaller fish in a pond teeming with sharks. The White Motor Company started as a steam car manufacturer in the early 1900s, but soon pivoted to trucks, a move that proved enormously successful. White built everything from delivery vans to massive highway tractors, supplying the U.S. Army with trucks during both World Wars. At one point, White was considered one of the leading heavy-duty truck makers in the nation, with designs that emphasized driver comfort and straightforward mechanical layouts. They even produced some stylish, Art Deco-inspired bus and truck designs. In collaboration with industrial designers. Jokes aside, driving a White rig was seen as a badge of honor among older truckers who admired the brand's engineering. White's downfall was a complex affair. They struggled with labor disputes, soared into debt due to expansions, and faced harsh competition from global manufacturers. One controversial story claims that White executives tried to partner with foreign companies under the table, a move that unsettled their American workforce. By the 1960s and 1970s, the financial troubles piled up. Its legacy lives on mostly in vintage truck clubs, but as a standalone brand, White simply couldn't keep its head above water in the changing tides of the late 20th century. Ward LeFrance Truck Corporation specialized in fire apparatus and heavy rescue vehicles, starting in 1916 in Elmira Heights, New York. Many fire departments across the United States placed their trust in Ward LeFrance, largely due to robust craftsmanship and advanced pump systems. They even built trucks for military use during World War I, earning multiple government contracts. If you've ever visited an antique fire engine parade, you might have seen a gleaming Ward LeFrance engine, complete with ornate trim and distinctive body lines. Despite the brand's solid reputation in firefighting circles, Ward LeFrance never successfully broke into broader commercial trucking. Rumor has it they attempted to design a consumer-based pickup in the 1950s to diversify, but scrapped the project due to budget concerns. Over time, increased competition from companies like American LeFrance, no direct relation, ironically, and other emerging fire truck manufacturers squeezed their market share. By the 1970s, Ward LeFrance was financially strapped, and internal management disputes only exacerbated the situation. They officially closed in 1979. Few outside the firefighting community even remember their name. But for a time, Ward LeFrance was a proud and dependable brand that put safety and reliability first, just not enough to survive the shifting marketplace. Divco stands for Detroit Industrial Vehicle Company, famous for those classic rounded milk trucks that once roamed suburban streets, delivering fresh bottles door to door. Founded in 1926, Divco's unique forward control design allowed drivers to stand or sit while maneuvering neighborhood routes. Optimizing speed for frequent stops, their small, efficient engines and compact chassis were perfect for tasks that required constant hopping in and out. Divco's heyday stretched from the 1930s to the 1960s, with their trucks becoming a nostalgic symbol of old-school Americana. However, times changed. When supermarkets replaced home delivery in most areas, Divco's core customer base dried up. Attempts to branch into other commercial applications met with limited success. Some say Divco's management was too slow to see the writing on the wall, doubling down on milk delivery trucks long after the demand had waned. One lesser-known fact is that Divco experimented with an electric-powered truck in the early 1960s, but the project never fully matured. By 1986, Divco had dissolved, leaving behind fond memories of a simpler era. While collectors revere these quirky vehicles, Divco's niche focus and reluctance to pivot sealed its fate. Maron is often overshadowed by better-known names, but in trucking circles it garnered a devoted cult following. Evolving from the Marmon Harrington Company, which first delved into converting Ford vehicles into 4x4 trucks, Maron eventually branched out to produce its own premium, customized Class 8 trucks. These rigs were often built to order, featuring high-grade interiors, plush driver's seats, and powerful diesel engines that could handle cross-country hauls with ease. Marmon's dedication to quality earned it the nickname the Rolls-Royce of trucks, a label that drew both admiration and skepticism. Despite the truckers who swore by Maron, the company never achieved large-scale success. It relied on handcrafted assembly processes, which kept production volumes low and costs high. Rumors circulated that Maron's owners were reluctant to modernize their factories, preferring old-school craftsmanship. While some drivers loved that boutique approach, it made the brand uncompetitive against industry giants offering similar specs at a lower price. By the late 1990s, Maron ended its truck production. A handful of Maron loyalists still insist these trucks offered superior handling and longevity. But as an independent American truck maker, Maron ultimately bowed out, leaving behind a legacy of craftsmanship few can match. They still exist today, but as a shell of the beast they once were. Kaiser Frazer burst onto the scene after World War II, an era when Americans were hungry for new cars and trucks. Formed by industrialist Henry J. Kaiser and auto executive Joseph Frazer, the company initially focused on passenger cars but soon eyed the commercial truck market. Kaiser Frazer acquired Willys Overland in 1953, which gave them the iconic Jeep brand, a strong foothold in utility vehicles. For a while, Jeep trucks and wagons under Kaiser's leadership sold respectably, known for their go-anywhere ruggedness. Plus, Kaiser attempted a variety of marketing angles, claiming their 4x4 pickups offered better freedom for outdoor enthusiasts, an early nod to the future off-road craze. However, financial troubles plagued the parent company. Some claim that management was too ambitious, funneling resources into far-flung operations, including aluminum and medical ventures. The truck line never received the consistent investment it needed to truly flourish against the GMs and Fords of the world. By 1970, Kaiser sold the Jeep operations to American Motors, effectively ending Kaiser as an independent entity. This left behind a patchwork of owners and brand names. Although Jeep lives on under a different corporate banner, Kaiser's foray into trucks remains a footnote, one that showed promise but was derailed by a lack of focus and harsh market realities. AMC might be best remembered for cars like the Gremlin, Pacer, and Eagle, but let's not forget that AMC once controlled the Jeep brand after purchasing Kaiser's operations. Under AMC, Jeep trucks like the Gladiator and the J-Series pickups saw incremental improvements, including optional V8 engines and more refined interiors. These trucks helped AMC maintain a steady presence in the utility market during the 1970s, a time when off-roading started to gain wider popularity. AMC also dabbled in designing smaller front-wheel drive vehicles, but the truck side remained almost exclusively Jeep. Still, AMC was perpetually cash-strapped. Their smaller lineups couldn't compete with the big three, especially as fuel prices fluctuated and consumer tastes changed. There's a juicy rumor that AMC nearly partnered with Renault to develop a compact pickup for the American market. That project never got off the ground, overshadowed by AMC's eventual acquisition by Chrysler. By 1987, Chrysler folded AMC into its corporate structure, leaving Jeep as the major survivor. While the Jeep name thrived, AMC as a brand vanished. For truck enthusiasts, that meant the end of any truly independent AMC developments. The AMC era in truck building is often overshadowed by Jeep's iconic standing, which, ironically, is the only major piece of AMC still very much alive and kicking. Autocar touts itself as the oldest motor vehicle brand in the United States, dating back to 1897. Although Autocar still technically exists today, it has undergone so many ownership and structural changes that it's a far cry from the independent brand it once was. In its golden era, Autocar specialized in heavy-duty vocational trucks, vehicles designed for garbage collection, concrete mixing, and other demanding tasks. The brand's hallmark was a no-nonsense approach to engineering, often featuring robust diesel engines and straightforward mechanical layouts that fleet managers adored. Many municipalities chose Autocar rigs because they could take a beating and still keep going. But independence is a tough road. After multiple mergers and acquisitions, including time under White Motor Company and later Volvo, Autocar was effectively absorbed into larger corporate entities. Conflicts about product development and brand identity arose, leaving the classic Autocar name in limbo. The brand has been resurrected in recent years, now focusing on refuse trucks, but as I mentioned, It's no longer the autonomous American firm that once proudly stood on its own. Some truck aficionados argue that the modern Autocar is just a label slapped on someone else's chassis, a controversial stance that ruffles feathers but underscores the brand's complicated journey. The independent Autocar, as older fans remember it, simply could not stand the test of time. You may recall Hupmobile as a Detroit-based auto company founded in 1909, best known for its passenger cars. What's rarely discussed is that Hupmobile also ventured into the light truck market for a brief period. These trucks were essentially modified car chassis, featuring slightly beefed-up suspensions and cargo beds, marketed to small businesses and tradespeople. Some models boasted spirited four-cylinder engines, while a handful of higher-end versions came equipped with straight-six power. Owners liked the truck's nimble handling, especially when weaving through crowded city streets. Historians note that Hupmobile even tried to woo farmers by touting the truck's adaptability. Remove the bed cover and you've got a mini-tractor, they claimed. But Hupmobile's big break in the truck segment never arrived. The competition was fierce, with Ford's Model T truck conversions dominating the market. Meanwhile, General Motors and others expanded into more robust offerings. Unable to finance large-scale manufacturing changes, Hupmobile's foray into trucks remained modest. The brand as a whole was already struggling with declining car sales in the 1920s and 1930s. They merged with Graham Page in a last-ditch effort to stay afloat, but nothing stuck. By 1940, Hupmobile shut its doors. Today, the existence of Hupmobile trucks is almost an urban legend, with only a few surviving examples in museums or private collections. Their tale represents the ultimate what if. Had they caught a break, perhaps we'd be talking about Hupmobile alongside Ford or Chevy. Instead, they became yet another vanished name in America's long list of automotive ventures. Thank you so much for sticking around to learn about these 15 old American truck brands that just didn't make it. Jokes aside, it's fascinating how each tried to innovate, only to be toppled by circumstance, competition, or plain bad luck. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for more deep dives into the world of cars and trucks. Hope you found this video helpful. Catch you in the next one.